Well, welcome once again. This is the Doctor of Digital podcast with your host, the Doctor of Digital. The purpose of the show is to introduce you to trends in business, technology, marketing your message, and to meet good people you should know. Did you know the benefits of working with a certified coach? Certified coaches help and discover your true selves, identify your skills and talents, and gain clarity about life's purpose. Working with a certified coach can lead to improved life satisfaction, career advancement, and overall well being. Podcasting provides a platform for certified coaches to showcase their expertise and knowledge, positioning them as thought leaders in their respective fields. This can contribute to building trust and credibility among their audience. During this episode, we'll discuss the changes and hot topics in coaching and podcasting to understand how coaching and podcasting may be for you and whether they are the right tools for you. By the end of this episode, you'll be better equipped to know what to do, and I'm going to encourage you to contact my special guest. And today, we are lucky enough to have her. Welcome to the show. Glad you were here. And I know it's snowing, but that's okay. We're going to still forge on ahead. How are you today?
I'm so excited to be on your show. I found you on Podmatch and I have been following things. And, it's nice to be able to share with your listeners as well.
Sure, absolutely. And that's what I'd like this to be, a place that you would feel as though people can hear what you have to do and what you do. And that way they'll be able to introduce to you and contact you. Well, could you tell us a little bit about your background? How did you get in the field of both podcasting and coaching?
Well, it all started back when I was in high school. I was taking a speech class and my teacher said to me, I think you should be in the debate club. And I said, okay, fine. He said, now there's a lot of research and work you got to do, a lot of rules. And I worked really hard at it, went to our first debate, and we lost. And not because we didn't have the right information. It was our technique in presenting it.
Okay. And that can happen. There's a little bit of
To my teacher, it's
a little bit of not having the right tools ready to go.
Doesn't always win. That I had a voice that I wanted to share. I don't have to win, but I have to understand, number one, why I'm doing things the way I'm doing it and how other people are doing the exact same thing, but maybe getting what I think are better results. And so when I went to college, I enrolled in communications. My parents thought I was getting a teaching degree because that's what they wanted. When they realized I was not in it for education, I was in it for the purpose of communication, they pulled me out of school after 2 years. They said, enough's enough. Go get a real job. But, I always used the tools that I learned. And every job I was in, I would volunteer to speak before groups. I'm passionate about a lot of subjects. So it wasn't until my youngest, who he was born in 1990, when he went to graduate from high school. And I looked at him and I thought, you're going to get at least a bachelor's degree. I only have an associate's degree. No, that's not going to cut it. So I went back to school, completed my degree, and also got my master's in communication. Then it was, what are you going to do with it? And this was a little over 10 years ago. And I had this great idea that if I could talk to people, get their messages out, I'd be living my dream. So I started podcasting, not knowing the first thing about it. I bought this very, very expensive soundboard, which today you don't even need anymore. Your computer can do it all. I have fancy lights all around me, microphones galore. But I've learned through the time what I really need. And talking to other people on my podcast got me to realizing that there was more to it that I wanted to do. And that's when I went out and got my certification in coaching, which I did 2 years ago,
Mhm.
but I didn't decide to start coaching until this year.
I see. So if it's someone like me, now high school's been a while back, and I'm
Me
wondering
too.
what would you say are the changes that you've seen over the years? And
I mean, tremendous because I
mm, and
computers were the dream of most
sure,
into, but none of us really thought at that point. Um, so that is one big change. The other change that I have found is that back in the 60s and 70s, I didn't realize it, but my voice was really hushed because I was a woman, not a man. And that made a big difference. And
okay,
it still plays to some degree in today's world, but not like it did back then.
sure,
Um, like I said, I took my skills and whatever job I was in, I offered to do training. Uh, I was on speaking engagements for all these different companies. And it was 12 years ago that I was in corporate America, actually at a profit school, not a nonprofit school.
yeah,
And they decided that I was too old. And I only heard that a dozen times a day. And I finally said, I can't take this anymore. You're depressing me. And I had the best counseling record with my students. In fact, I had students who dropped out of that college because I wasn't there to talk to them.
hmm,
So, again, I've always been broadcasting in some manner, whether it's on the stage or through a computer. And I've always been coaching, but not realizing that's exactly what I was doing.
sure. You've kind of walked into it without
Right.
realizing it. You know,
Exactly.
so we talked about some of the changes. I'm wondering if you could tell us then what would you say are some of the hot topics, both maybe in coaching or in podcasting? So what do you think is hot in the news today?
I think the hottest thing that I hear people saying is, I've lived my whole life and I still haven't done what I want to do. And it's like, then let's do it. What are you waiting for?
Mm,
You know, if you have a job and you need to put the bread on the table, keep that job. But there's got to be a time each day, each week that you could start doing the things you like to do, whether it's reading, painting, learning to play an instrument, going back to college like I did. Um, so I think the big thing is we don't have to live with regrets like some of our parents and grandparents did. Um, I remember 7 years ago, my mother was ill. She didn't know she was ill. She had had a stroke and didn't really connect the fact that she was bedridden.
yeah.
But one day I said to her, Mom, I'll be right back. I have to go in the other room. I have a podcast to do. She grabbed my hand and she said, Honey, are you an important podcaster or broadcaster, whatever you just told
Yeah. So trying to understand it. Yeah. I understand that. I get it.
in this house?
And trying to talk with mom, explaining it. It's got to
And
be difficult.
yeah,
So if you're saying that people maybe haven't found exactly what they're looking for, so I guess this is probably why you talk to a coach. And what would you recommend that people do? And what would you say that they should be thinking about or doing at this point?
the first thing we have to stop saying, I can't. And that's so easy for us to say. That comes out of our mouth, I don't know how many times a day. You know, I can't make that meal for you because I don't have all the ingredients in the house. But I could make that meal if I went to the grocery store and got all those ingredients. Um, I can't lose weight. Why can't you lose weight?
Mhm.
Um, you know, think about what you're eating. Think about what you need to fuel your body and what you don't need. Um, think about exercise. In fact, I went on a new life cycle, so to speak. Um, and I ride a stationary bike every single night. It's just part of who I am now. You know, I don't stop and say, oh my God, I got to go exercise on the bike. No, I don't think of it that way. I'm either checking my email while I'm riding my bike, watching TV, listening to a podcast. I'm doing multiple things, but I'm enjoying it and I see the benefits. And so when somebody comes to me and says, I wish I had been painting my whole life. I used to love doing it when I was in high school. Well, go out and get some paint, get some paper, start painting. And if that's not what you want to do, what are some other things you do want to do? Um, and I go through this with my husband all the time. He keeps saying he wants to do more of his photography. And it can be a beautiful day, and I'll say, grab your camera, go on out. And he'll think of all the reasons why he can't. And when I want to do something, I just go and do it.
In some ways, I mean, I'm just wondering, thinking aloud, this sounds like what people calls a growth mentality or a growth mindset rather than saying, I can, but I can, and what do I need to do? So I want to lose weight. Well, I can't lose weight. Well, sure. Well, what would you have to do if you wanted to lose weight? That's kind of what it sounds like. And that's what people need to
And
realize.
let's not we don't want to make those goals so high that they're so hard to reach. So when I decided, I had been on some medication that just blew me up. And when the doctor took me off of it, I noticed it was easier to lose some weight because I didn't have these bad chemicals in me. Um, but I didn't set a goal saying, I need to lose 5 pounds a month or 10 pounds a month. It was, I'm going to start losing weight. I'm going to get healthier. I'm going to be happier when I look in the mirror. And so with every ounce I took off, I celebrated it.
And just a little bit at a time, one small step at a time makes sense.
You look a little different. It is. He said, well, you do look happier. Okay. So you haven't worn those pants in years. You're starting to notice. But I still didn't make a big deal of it. It was like, you know what? This is my lifestyle. And, hopefully my brain will stay in that same track that this is what I want to do to keep myself healthy and looking the best that I can look.
I'm curious when you say that this is what you do and what you would suggest. I'm also then interested in what would you say is your expertise and what would differentiate yourself from others? So, I mean, there's a lot of podcasts out there, there's a lot of certified coaches out there. And so, what kind of expertise do you have and what would you offer somebody if they were thinking about using a coach or listening?
So what I tell my, future clients, um, is that I've had the experience of many, many challenges in my life. I'm 73 years old. When I was in my 20s, I was terrified to be 50. And when I was 50, I was hesitant to be in my 70s. But I learned that worrying about that number, if we're healthy enough to live, we're going to reach those numbers. And there's longevity in my family genes. So most likely, I'm going to live a much longer life. It's about saying to yourself, it's okay to find that happiness.
Yeah. And accepting those things about yourself and understanding.
Right.
And it sounds as though there are things that you could recommend or things that you would say that people ought to be thinking about or they should be doing. Just out of curiosity, then, if a person was listening and they said, there is something about what you're saying, and I would like to move forward and I would like to do these things, but I think always a coach can help you. And I played basketball when I was younger, and I know what coaches are. They see things that the individual can't see. How would they get a hold of you, and what would you recommend that they should do because they'd like to reach out to you?
So the first thing I recommend is that you really have to want to make whatever that change is. Okay. I'm not going to tell you what changes you can make. You're going to come to me and tell me this just isn't working right. And we're going to walk through why it's not working right for you. Because you know what? If I take those same steps, it might be right for me. So I'm not going to pass any judgment. What is it you've been doing? How have you been doing it? And let's sit and brainstorm about how you might do it differently
Mm.
to get a better result. And let them do the talking. Let me sit back and hear it. I might question them. So you think that is the best path to take? And I'll give an example. My son moved to Texas a year ago. It was a very difficult move for him, but a great opportunity. So he had to go. And he packed up his car and he drove on his own all the way to Texas, um, found an apartment to live in. And he would start calling me, telling me, "Oh, I'm lonely. I shouldn't have taken the job." What I turned around was saying, "Well, tell me about the job. What is it you like about it?" I couldn't get him to stop because that's how much he loves what he's doing. I said, "Wow, that's terrific. So, what is it about your apartment you would like to change?" He said, "I picked an apartment that's too far from work. In the traffic, it's horrible." Well, what are your options? And as of this Saturday, he's moving to a different apartment much closer to work. So I was having him find the answers. If he wanted to stay in that apartment because whatever, you know, it gave him, that would be okay. But he had to make that decision.
Yeah.
So when he made that decision, no, I can't live this far. I'm losing life. I said, well, then you know what to do. And it took him 4 months of searching for a place to live until he said,
Oh.
this feels like home. So again, it was encouraging him to
Mhm.
go through. I had a client who contacted me when I first started coaching back in April. She was going through a divorce and she wanted me to tell her not to get divorced. So I asked her, why do you want me to tell you that? I don't know you well enough. I don't know your spouse. I don't know any of that, and I don't need to. Why do you think I should? And she goes, well, my husband wants me back. Well, then let's go through that. What were the good things? What is causing the divorce? And before we realized it, she realized that if she made some changes, she could go back. She didn't, though. She finally chose, you know what? I am sort of like living on my own. I like doing things on my time schedule, but they're the best of friends now. I had nothing to do with it. I just made her come up with the answers to her question.
Right. So people are finding their own solutions with the assistance of what some people would call the guide on the side.
Right.
And
Exactly.
do you have a website, or how would people reach out to you? What would you say if they would like to contact you?
Well, there's a couple different ways. They can go out to newclevelandradio.net. And there's a section there for Yes, I Can Coaching with Karen. Or they can direct email me at yesican.ncr, Nancy Charlie Robert, at gmail.com. Whether they want some information about coaching, the first session is absolutely free because you know what? I have to figure out if I can even be of assistance. So 1 hour of nonstop talking between myself and potential client, we then can come up with some answers if that's what they want to do. If I'm not the right coach for them, I have a list of over 500 coaches across the United States who might be the right one for them. And it's okay if you don't choose me.
Excellent. Well, that's really great. I appreciate you taking some time out, and it's a great title. Yes, I can. I love that. And also Cleveland, of course, because everyone knows that Cleveland rocks.
Me too.
Thanks for taking some time out today and chatting with you. I appreciate your time. Thank you so
Okay.
much.
Bye now.
Bye. All right. So if you have liked what you've heard on this and other shows, this is the Dr. Digital podcast. And if you'd like to be a guest, get in touch with me because we've got people who do that. But of course, you want to make sure that you are liking, subscribing, and positively reviewing, especially on Apple Podcasts. That does help the podcast a great deal. So until next time, we appreciate your time. Thanks for being a guest today. And everybody who tuned in, until next time, Deus Vol.